Hello everyone, we are back. This is Formula for Speed. I am your host Chad, and I'm here with my other lovely co-host, Babyface. Babyface, please say hello.
Hello.
Guys, Jeddah. Wow. Guys, I don't know what to say about Jeddah. I gotta be honest with you, I did not enjoy that race. By any means. Too much going on. Too much. I didn't enjoy it. First, before we get too far into it, and guys, before we start talking about it, want to give a shout out to the podium holders. Of course, that's Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and Valtteri Bottas at the end on the straightaway over Ocon. So, yeah, Babyface, I'm gonna let you start this off because you know my sentiments on this race. I did not enjoy it. I'm gonna let you start it off. What you got, Babyface?
It was quite the race. You know what? It felt like the whole race was a sequence of start stop with emotions. It was good, but very exhausting to watch as a fan, in my opinion. Because again, a lot of start stop. Now, if we start with qualifying,
yeah.
Max Q3 drove into the wall, crashed into the wall.
He did. He was pushing purple sectors on everything,
and crashed into the wall.
He did.
So he couldn't finish the lap, which was a very fast flying lap.
True.
Crashed into the wall, stopped the session. So our starting grid, which was Hamilton, Bottas, then Verstappen,
right,
was created by Verstappen crashing and then the session being stopped. But there were only really less than a minute or two left in Q3.
He didn't damage his gearbox, by the way, too, which I was surprised.
We talked about because that would have been a huge gamble if the gearbox. If you take a new gearbox and then you take 5 grid place penalty, can you trust the fact that he's going to work his way through the grid, considering that this is a very fast track with blind corners? Or do you gamble and go, the gearbox is going to be fine, but run the risk that during the race it may die or, cause trouble? So he did start the race with the same gearbox. They said everything was fine, and it looked like it was sincerely fine.
Yeah, you know what, Babyface, and of course all of you know, I was salty, Babyface. I was salty. Guys, my McLaren, I was hopeful. I'm always hopeful for my McLaren boys. Everybody, I believe this is a distraction. A mass distraction with Lewis and Max and Red Bull versus Mercedes. No one. Guys in the comments, please help me. Please. Babyface is not helping me. No one is expressing concern over this Ferrari that out of nowhere, second half of the season has found pace. Because I want to bring light to this, guys. Leclerc qualified fourth. Yet again outpacing Norris and Rick, who were 7th and 11th, right? This car, everybody's distracted. Everyone is distracted with Mercedes and Red Bull. I'm a fan of neither one. I could care less. I have respect for both teams. I like Lewis because he used to race for my team, but he no longer races for my team. So my concern is Ferrari with this pace because we were on pace to get best of the rest. But I'll say that for let's talk about a video before I start on the tangent. Guys, I was not pleased. I was like, we have no answer for these guys. So, on to the race, Babyface. I guess.
On to the race.
Yeah, on to the race. You can hear the salt. You can hear I'm salty. You can hear I'm salty behind this.
Yes.
You can hear it.
We can. On to the race. So the race starts, and surprisingly, I thought there was going to be disaster at the beginning.
I think I did too.
But it actually started pretty clean. Everyone went off. Lewis and Bottas got a great start. Verstappen got a great start. It was very clean. You got to the first couple of corners. It was fine. And so I thought, okay, maybe this will end up being a very not a straightforward race, but it'll come down to strategy. It'll come down to pit stops.
Right.
And that was contradictory to what you and I talked about yesterday,
I thought it was going to start off disastrous from the first corner. I was like, this is going to be bad.
Because I remember us talking about the fact that we expected a lot of safety cars and issues because it's a fast track.
Street track at that. It's not Monza where Monza's it's a regular circuit.
Exactly.
This is the second fastest, guys, and they redid this track on the street. Walls are really, it's fun to watch when they're, just going through practice.
Yeah.
But I was worried for the race. I was like, I don't know how this is going to turn out.
That start, if we could call it a false start, because it was deceiving when it started and it went off well. Lap 10, Mick goes into the barriers.
That was the start. That was the start of it.
And it was the same corner where Carlos, during qualifying, struggled.
He did.
So
twice, I think, in the same.
Exactly.
Was it twice? Yeah.
Exactly. So Mick going into the barriers, he was fine.
Right.
Thankfully, but that created a safety car.
It did.
Hamilton and Bottas both pitted under the safety car.
To get hards.
To get hard compound tyres. Perez also pitted for hard compound tyres. The Red Bull team decided to leave Verstappen out for
It didn't work out for Perez either. It didn't work out.
It didn't work out for him, but at the time we didn't know that. And so leaving Verstappen out for grid position because now he's leading the Grand Prix.
Right.
Okay, he stayed out there on the mediums. Then the session, still from Mick's crash into the barriers, after the yellow safety car, a complete red flag.
Right. They had to. They had
exactly,
to. And guys, you guys, I'm sure would agree. I don't think there was any way of avoiding that red, the session stopping the red flag, because I believe it was the positioning, and they had to get the crane out there to get the car.
Not just that, but considering that was already a corner that other drivers have struggled with, you need to make sure that the barriers are set up right for, God forbid, the chance that somebody else goes into that barrier, it saves them and not, skimp on it. It's safety first.
Right.
So full red flag. Now the session gets stopped. Everybody gets to come in. And now, of course, Verstappen really gets a free pit stop because in the red... red flags, you can change your tyres. So Verstappen gets fresh tyres. The session finally starts.
What did he get, mediums?
Yes.
He got the mediums.
He went on mediums. Mm-hmm. And so the session finally starts again, lap 15.
Now I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to pause if you don't mind right there. For me, guys, when I saw that, I thought advantage Mercedes and I didn't think this was going to happen, but I said best chance, if there's no more safety cars, those hards should outlast the mediums. Because Max, with the pressure from Mercedes and the pace they had on those hards, I was like, they're going to put pressure on Max, causing him to wear through those tires, causing him to need another pit stop. If Lewis and Bottas would go into tire reservation or just reserving tires, basically.
Yeah.
Tire preservation, they can make it to the end. Ideally. That was my thought when I saw that.
Agreed. Now, once the session restarted, it was a standing start.
Right.
Verstappen took off. But the thing is that it didn't last very long, and that was a very nail-biting restart because you had Verstappen, Hamilton, and Ocon. Ocon and Verstappen were hugging Hamilton in the middle, and it looked like it was about to be a pileup. It just looked nasty.
I was like, I hope these guys
Thankfully, Hamilton pulled back and completely bowed out. Right thing to do, but it was very short-lived because just as we get going again, that restart resulted in another yellow flag, which then resulted in another red flag because Mazepin drove into the back of George Russell, and that did look nasty. I mean, it wasn't like
I don't even think Mazepin, that wasn't even his fault, was it?
No, it wasn't his fault.
It actually wasn't Mazepin's fault that time.
He just arrived, and there was Russell braking, and there was nothing he could do. But it was nasty watching, because especially when you look at how the drivers sit in a Formula One car and where their legs are, seeing how far Mazepin's nose had gone under George Russell's car, I immediately thought about his legs. I was like, oh no, is he going to be hurt?
Yeah, the monocoque protection.
But yeah, Mazepin drove into the back of George Russell.
He did.
Both of them DNF.
Right.
Then Leclerc touched Perez, making him to spin Perez out. So
that was nuts. That was crazy. I just feel like with that, and guys, I don't know how you feel about this, so let me know in the comments. I actually feel like on that circuit, how fast it is, a lot of those things couldn't be avoided, right?
Agreed.
That pile up with Mazepin, Perez, to me, Russell, I just don't know what they could have done differently. I'm not quite sure. At that going that speed, that fast, blind corner, I don't know what they could have done, babyface.
I don't think that was driver mistakes by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. No, I think it's the fact that it was a new track.
Yeah, redid it.
It was a very fast track.
Only behind Monza.
Exactly. And it's the second to last race for the season. So for several teams, that is, the pressure, the let's go. This is a second to last chance to really make an impact for the season. So thankfully, everybody was fine. Everybody walked away just fine.
Right.
So now by this point, after the red flag ended and we get another standing restart, we had Perez, Russell, Mazepin, and Mick Schumacher out.
Yeah.
Now, Ocon was on pole. Well, not on pole, but he was starting out front for the standing restart. And I should mention that there was already some drama around the first restart.
Yep.
Because Verstappen was up front and he felt that Hamilton was way in the back, too far behind to then line up properly, leaving Verstappen out front sitting for quite some time. There was some conversation.
He felt he had more than 10 car lengths for that restart. He wasn't happy.
So then we get the leading up to the second restart. There was an incident with Hamilton and Verstappen, and before the red flag and the yellow flags, obviously, and there was some conversation about should Verstappen have gone off the track to gain the position?
Well, no.
Was he pushed off the track to gain the position?
I don't think he was.
Was he pushed wide by Hamilton? There was all this conversation, yet the stewards did not get involved. It was negotiated between Red Bull and Mercedes that Ocon would be first.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time of the red and yellow flags, Verstappen was in the front, followed by Ocon, followed by Hamilton. But by the time the restart happened, and there was conversation, well, we can get the stewards involved to look at it to see if Verstappen has to give the place back. Red Bull and Mercedes agreed, put Ocon in the front, and Verstappen is going to give the place back, following, so Ocon front, followed by Lewis, followed by Verstappen in P3.
True.
Red Bull agreed to that. Mercedes agreed to that.
Yeah, all parties agreed.
The stewards did not get involved, so it wasn't a steward decision.
No.
But everybody agreed that that is the way it was going to restart.
And I believe Michael Massey was the mediator in that, which he normally is. So he did a good job, positioning. And guys, you saw this. He did a good job, I feel, giving each team options. Here's what I suggest, because we don't want it to go to the stewards. So I think that was fair.
Yes, and agreeably, for any fan out there, Red Bull would not, in my opinion, have agreed to that if they didn't blatantly see that, Verstappen gained an unfair advantage. So let's take this deal, if you will, almost like a plea deal, right?
Because he took the place, and it was not the right manner to take the place.
Exactly, and rather than running the risk of further penalties or a worse action, we can recoup from P3. We can do that. So that is how the restart happened. And so here Ocon is on pole. Starting lap 17 is when the starting, the standing start happened. Again, very short-lived, because lap 23 we get a virtual safety car because Tsunoda tapped Vettel and clipped his whole front wing.
What was that about? I guess, and I feel like Babyface, and guys, let us know in the comments what you thought about that, because I felt like Tsunoda didn't, I don't know if he realized Vettel was there, or Vettel thought he clearly had the room. It was that was weird. I didn't know what to make of that. What do you think, Babyface? What were your thoughts?
I think it's just those two drivers there, their pressures they were running high. They were just trying to go and
racing incident that turned just a mistake. I don't know who to blame there. I have to go back and look at that again because when that happened, I was like, what was that? What just happened?
I think instinctively I was thinking it was Yuki's mistake, but I have to go back. At that point, I will admit, as a spectator, I really didn't pay attention to what happened. Neither did I really care in that moment. I was more frustrated that we had to stop again.
And guys, let us know in the comments because that's how we were feeling. I don't think me or her actually cared to watch the incident again. At this point, it was getting old for me. I'm like, all right, I'm as everybody's getting going and everybody's settling in, getting into the groove again, something else happens. I'm like, this is getting old. So I was tired of it.
Pretty much. And again, this was a virtual safety car.
Yeah, but it was still, I was like,
God, what again? Tsunoda was able to roll his car back into the pits.
Right.
Which thankfully, because otherwise it would have been another red flag. But no, it was just a virtual safety car. He got a new nose, but now we have debris we need to pick up. There was another virtual safety car, lap 30, to pick up debris because Alonso was on the radio, and rightfully so. Alonso was on the radio saying, this is dangerous. Not only this is a fast and dangerous race, but, I mean, there's
debris
all
on the
this
racing,
debris. This is not even safe. And you could see that the cars were coming around the corner, which would be blind to them, and there was an object in the way. So, yeah, very dangerous. So they had to... We had another virtual safety car.
And not to pause, babyface, but Kimi was involved. Was he in
Vettel?
With Vettel, okay.
Kimi had a situation with Vettel because we had another virtual safety car, lap 36.
I was tired, babyface. At this point, guys, I was tired. I was sick of it. I told her, and normally I don't get like this, but I remember telling you, I'm like, I'm done with this race. This is getting on my nerves. It's too many starts and stops, and it's getting out of hand.
Yes, but Vettel did not finish, so he was the 5th car to not finish the Grand Prix. He had to retire. Then, just as we get going again, we have some drama unfold. So we get going again. Verstappen is up front. Hamilton, he's still on the yellow medium tires. So at this point, it's really playing into the hands of Red Bull because even though Verstappen is on the medium tires, which are faster, because he hasn't been driving them
virtual
as
safety
hard.
Cars going through lap after lap after lap.
He's running really slowly on them, so he's barely touching them.
Right.
Meanwhile, Hamilton is still on the hard compound tires.
Right.
Bottas at this point was, I believe, in 5th behind Ocon. And behind, I forget, Rick. Danny Rick,
he was behind Rick.
And Ocon at the time. Mm-hmm. So, all right, we restart, we go. Now, inevitably, Hamilton and Verstappen get into some racing. And that makes me incredibly nervous because we've had Silverstone, we've had Brazil, we've just had so many incidents. The second half of this season.
These two,
which is a contrast from what you've been saying in the first half of the season and last season.
They didn't collide.
Where you were constantly saying that Verstappen drives very responsibly around Hamilton because they would never touch.
They didn't touch
last
before
season,
this.
Hamilton and Verstappen had some really good racing and they wouldn't touch. But this season, it's like all...
I feel like everybody's performing for Netflix. Honestly. Honestly, I'm like, is everybody performing for the... Because I didn't see this first part of the season or last season, to your point. And when I start seeing these two battle, and everybody's on the couch like, oh God, are they going to touch? I'm like, I know Max goes for it all. That's what happened in this qualifying. He's going for it, and people are like, that was the greatest lap I've seen. I was like, he didn't finish a lap. He pushed too hard. And when you push too hard on a track like that, a new track that's a street circuit, you can get clipped, you can get caught, and that's what happened.
If you're speaking about the qualifying lap, where was a lot of people were making comments about that was the greatest lap I've ever seen. Well, if the greatest lap that you've ever seen involves your driver crashing, then by all means, yes, it was the greatest lap, including a crash. I prefer greatest laps that do not involve crashing, so we shall just disagree.
Well, the thing is, for me, a lap is a lap. Actually going and finishing your complete lap. He didn't finish his complete lap.
Yeah, but that was qualifying. Now, as it relates to the race,
right?
They get into some racing.
They do.
There's some pushing. There's a little bit of bumpage, And then, again, Verstappen goes off the track and keeps his position. So, here's where things get dicey. Red Bull gets on the radio with Verstappen and say, you need to give the position back.
Because yet again, it was a position,
unfair advantage. Okay. Now, Hamilton, from what we were able to hear, had not been informed of this yet.
Yeah.
So Verstappen starts slowing down to allow Hamilton to pass.
True.
No problem with that.
No.
The only issue I had with that is I've seen a lot of people give places back. And they typically do as the back markers do when they get blue flags.
Yeah, double blue flags, get out the way.
Slow down on the non-racing line.
Yeah, true.
And allow the faster driver to go past. That has been my experience. So I see Verstappen slowing down. And I'm thinking, there are two things I remember thinking. Why are you in the middle of the track? And why is Lewis slowing up behind him? And then Lewis clips as he tries to get up behind Verstappen. He drives into the back of Verstappen. It sounds worse than what it actually was. It really caused damage to Lewis's front wing. Not so much Verstappen. But I remember being confused by that. Like, why was Lewis behind Verstappen?
Right.
And why was Verstappen in the middle of the track? Turns out, Lewis hadn't been told that Verstappen was about to give him the place back. Mm-hmm. And you can see it when you look at Lewis's hands as he's trying to get past. He kind of, like, his left hand just, you know, when
he was confused.
Like, what was that?
He was confused. I had never seen him. I mean, I've been watching F1 guys a long time, since I was a little kid. And that's how I became a McLaren fan. When I started watching it, Senna and Prost were driving for McLaren. This was one of the weirdest races I've ever seen in my life. It was so much going on. That incident right there was just weird. I'm like, so apparently, like to your point, Max was told to give the place back, but Lewis hadn't heard that he was supposed to take the place back yet. So he came up on him so fast. It looked to me, came up on him so fast. It was kind of like one of those things where miscommunication and confusion combined, you get collision.
The fact that we had already had several virtual safety
cars. Yeah.
And in my mind, because there was some speculation about that as well, maybe did Lewis not pass?
Because he thought it was a virtual safety car.
Was another
to be fair, I felt like that was the 60th safety car by that lap. I was so tired of starting and stopping because of virtual safety cars, red flags. At that point, it was 2 red flags already. So, debris on the track. If I'm Lewis, to be fair, I'm thinking, oh, another safety car. He's slowing down out of nowhere. Let me slow down.
Agreed. And so you heard Mercedes get on the phone with the FIA and go, we didn't have enough time to tell him that this was going to happen. And the response was, well, I can only press so many buttons at the same time. And I thought, really? Why is this a problem now?
Here's my thing. And I'm the type of person that goes to the root cause of the problem. At some point, you got to look at the driving as well. Right? You got to look at the driving. If positions weren't gained from going off the track to gain an unfair advantage, positions wouldn't have to be given back. Now, Max fans will argue he was pushed wide. Crofty and those guys believe that he needs to check his driving standard. They felt that was a little, because I've been watching Lewis race since Formula 3 days. I've never got the sense he was a dirty driver. Ever. We never went through a phase of Lewis's career where he's crashing a lot or hitting other drivers a lot. Max, when I saw that incident, to be fair, maybe Max just, it was hot, there was a lot going on, he just slowed up. You know, but I was just kind of, that whole thing was weird to me. I think they need to relook at that Jeddah track. I like the track. I think a few tweaks need to be made before we go back there. Yeah,
a couple of blind corners need to be widened so it's not a blind corner anymore to make it safer. But as it relates to Verstappen and Hamilton, so here now Hamilton has a damaged front wing, but the team told him, you can still go.
Because the structure, the main structure that's holding on the car, holding it onto the car, is it's good.
Yeah, no, it will mess with his aero and a little bit of his speed and his downforce.
He got fastest lap.
But they said, keep going. So, meanwhile, Verstappen then gets instructed to, go ahead and give the place back. He does, and he cheeky, but it's not illegal, it's not wrong. He cheekily picked a part of the track where he could allow Lewis to...
Then pass him right back.
And then passed him right back. Okay.
I mean, yeah, fair.
So,
that's fair.
So, some more racing occurs. Meanwhile, Bottas did overtake Danny Rick, now trailing Ocon. Then, because there was an investigation from the FIA regarding Lewis and Verstappen and their incident, because there were so many of them, they did come back and hand Verstappen a 5-second penalty. Okay, so now we already knew, even if he wins out front, as long as Lewis is within 5 seconds, he's going to win the Grand Prix. Verstappen then gets passed, or hands back the position to Hamilton. Hamilton goes out front and runs, even with his damaged wing, runs through to win the Grand Prix.
He was driving like he was upset.
Yes, I agree.
And ready to be done with the race.
Now,
I think that was a sentiment.
What made me happy and worthwhile the whole race was when I saw Bottas, because that did have a moment. It messed my blood pressure a little bit.
The last straight.
Bottas caught Ocon.
He did.
And then Ocon retook the position.
Yeah, he did.
And it was the last straight, and I was like, no!
Yeah, he got him.
This is terrible. But
speed.
they raced to the finish line, and Bottas made it onto the podium in third place.
Well, once again, while you're celebrating Mercedes fans and even Red Bull fans, because you guys salvaged second place, you know what happened to my good boy Norris?
What happened?
Norris never recovered from that first pit stop that didn't do him well.
No.
Because he finished 10th in the points, but he started 7th. My hope was him and Rick, though I knew they couldn't catch Ferrari mathematically, but my hope was at least the last 2 races finish above those 2, right? Danny Rick finished 5th. I was hoping we can get at least a 5th or 6th out of the McLarens.
But it was a gamble, and it was a smart gamble to play, because for context,
it was.
When the first safety car came out, Lando Norris pitted for fresh tires, because there's really no way to have known that more red flags or yellow flags were going to happen. So
not this many.
No. So they pitted him, and as a result of pitting him, he dropped back and never
He never recovered, babe. He never recovered. I'm going to tell you something. That was tough for me to watch, man. Because again, I watched the Ferraris get 7th and 8th. And we couldn't even catch Giovinazzi. Who had a great overtake, by the way, on Alonso, right? Caught him on the outside.
Gasly powered past you guys.
Rick finished above him. Ocon finished above Rick. And it's just Norris never could... It was tough to watch. Talking about McLaren fans, this second half of the season after that Ferrari upgrade has been tough to watch F1. You guys are doing well. Red Bull's doing well. You're fighting for the chip. You're dead even. Now, though you guys have the constructors, it's still only separated about 20 points. So both constructors and drivers championship is still up in the air.
Yeah.
Red Bull fans, Mercedes fans, you have nothing to cry about. We have a gripe, babyface.
Well,
we have a legit gripe. I just want to know, to all my McLaren fans, somebody got to look at that Ferrari. Max is going around. He was filling on wings, right? I need someone to take a fine and look at that Ferrari car. Somebody from McLaren take the €50,000 fine and touch more than the wing. I need someone to take at least a hit or two of $150,000, $150 to look at that car. Guys, something. Where did this come from? Where did this come from? Because this is... Everybody's so distracted by the duel with Mercedes and Red Bull and the back and forth with Toto and Jos Verstappen and Christian. I don't care about none of that. I just want to know, where is Ferrari? And as quiet as it's kept, I mean, it just slowly crept up and took best of the rest from us, babe. You didn't say anything about it.
Because I'm not surprised that they... I believe Ferrari cheats. I cannot stand them. I'm not surprised. You now have a gripe with them because they're actually competing with McLaren, your team, for best of the race.
They're beating us. And I don't know where it came from. It seemed like it came out of nowhere.
Until this season, you were just sitting there, well, maybe...
Yeah, maybe, because I don't like calling people outright cheaters until I have the proof to say, okay, you are a cheater. But I am wondering, this car, man.
Okay, well, if we're not going to call them flat out cheaters, or you don't want to...
Further investigation needs to be done.
Then can I use one of your favorite quotes and say, well, you don't like it, just beat them.
Tough to beat them, babyface. I ain't gonna lie. I can't, and I tell myself that, but it is tough to beat these dudes. I mean, guys, my McLaren fans, again, if you're Mercedes and Red Bull fans, you guys have fun fighting for the chip. We just watched Best of the Rest just get taken from us out of no. I mean, it's gone. It's gone. After Danny Rick's victory, I said, we're there. We're gonna get it. Nope. After this upgrade Ferrari had, I said, wow. From there, I was like, oh, so it's just we're just gonna lose it. So, again, I want to give a congratulations to Mercedes and Red Bull. My McLaren fans, you know, guys, it's been a hard-fought season. We put in the effort. We tried the best we could. So, hopefully we give it our last race and at least have Danny Rick and Norris beat Sainz and Leclerc on the last race. I mean, that's at least some sort of consolation. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say. How are you feeling, babyface? I mean, last race. I mean, dead even on points. Now, technically, if they both crash out, Max will win because he has more victories. So, what are you feeling like?
I am ready for the last race of the season. I am ready for the season to be over because it's been exhausting.
It's too much drama, man. Yes. I'm just getting on my nerves. Yes, I'm tired of all the drama.
I love watching racing. From that aspect, I've really enjoyed the season because I see more racing. And I want to make something perfectly clear because you asked me about that. When last season, when I was saying, I could take some more racing because it's boring to see just Hamilton and Bottas run away with it. I don't want to see that. I want to see exciting racing. Exciting racing to me does not mean drama.
Yeah, this is getting ridiculous.
I can do without the word exchanges and he said and she said and they said, and I can do with all. I just want to see exciting racing on the track. I want to see overtaking, but I also want to see clean racing.
How do you feel about Max versus? Because you're a Mercedes fan. How do you feel about and your second team? I don't know if it still was at the time Red Bull for a long time.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Max's driving? Let me ask you that.
I think just like I constantly talk about Ferrari bringing their 2019 car in bits back, perhaps Max is bringing some of his Crash Stappen days back, where he's getting a bit over aggressive. Max has had days in his crashing youth where he was not the cleanest driver on the track. You and I used to talk about it, where we get really nervous if one of the McLarens, a Mercedes, anyone else on the track had to pass Max because we would say, oh, be careful, he will crash into you.
And I was one of the ones that didn't like Crash Stappen.
Yeah.
I didn't like the nickname. I was like, oh, come on, man. I mean, I know he's...
But he was constantly crashing. Now, amazing talent. You saw that he was a diamond in the rough.
Right. You saw he was going to be good.
It just had to be rounded and honed, but the talent was there. He's still very talented. But out of the two, I just don't understand the narrative of, oh, Lewis is a dirty driver.
Nobody's ever said. I've never gotten that sentiment from anybody else.
Dirty driver. You know, you have drivers on the grid that you can look at and go, okay, you are shady. And then you have the ones that keep it clean. Max has walked away from his not so clean driving days, and perhaps now with the pressure of the championship and being able to grasp it because it's really that close, maybe some of that is showing out in some of his driving tactics. But if his driving was that clean, then he wouldn't be asked to give back places. If his driving was clean, then it wouldn't have to be looked at constantly. Let's be honest, his driving is, and he wouldn't crash by himself into the wall because he's over pushing it and he's doing too much. It's not taken away from his talent. It's just an observation.
Right.
So that's how I feel about his driving. I also took slight issue with a comment that he made after the race when he found out that he was driver of the day, and he said, oh, this is not the Formula One. I'm heavily paraphrasing. This is not Formula One. This is not the sport that I know, because now it's all about the penalties and no longer about the racing, because he received a 5-second penalty. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, Max. Do you want to have that conversation with your team? Because your team is one that notoriously this whole season has been on the radio trying to get penalties for everybody else. So
fair enough.
If this is not Formula One that you enjoy, then maybe you should take that feedback back to the Red Bull team and say, hey guys, this isn't really about the penalties. Let's just win this by racing, not by trying to get everybody else into penalty trouble. So, double standard. I understand where he's coming from, but frankly, I would look at Max and say, well, like you, let's look at the root cause of the problem. You could have been on pole, but you crashed in... You could have had pole, but you crashed in Q3. Whose fault was that? You could have overtaken or been a bit more patient because you were on the medium compound tires, which were warmer and faster. You could have waited to overtake Hamilton at a different part of the track, but you gained unfair track advantage, which then led to you having to be looked at, giving the place back, not once, but twice. Twice you had to give the place back. Whose fault was that? Okay.
Well, to be honest, those medium tires wouldn't have lasted anyway.
No, they
wouldn't have lasted anyway.
But that the possibility that perhaps they could. Let's just look at, the compounded issues of this race, because there's a lot that happened in the season. But for this race, you had to give the position back twice. You crashed your car in Q3 when you could have been on pole. There were so many things. You slowed down in the middle of the track.
Now, I've seen some of the comments so far. They're saying, well, he didn't hit the brake lights. He didn't slow down. I'm like, well, he did slow down.
Okay, so here's my question to everybody that drives in the real world. What is more dangerous? You driving fast on the highway or on the street behind a car when you see their brake lights? Or when a car slows down by taking their foot off the gas and you don't see the brake lights and you don't anticipate it?
Yeah, especially when you're going that
when
fast.
You see
200 plus miles an hour, that's tough. That's a tough
It's
adjustment.
happened to me. Mm-hmm. When I see brake lights because somebody on the highway slams on the brake because there's an animal on the track or something, right? I can see the red lights. I immediately slam on the brakes as well, hoping that the person behind me, if there is one, will also see my brake lights and stop. But it is so dangerous to take your foot literally off the gas. You don't see lights, and you're coming up behind the car. By the time you realize you're getting really close, it's too late.
To me, to be honest with you, I felt there was a little frustration from Max on that one. I felt like he was like, oh, I got to give it back. Okay, so fine, let him have it. I felt like there was a little frustration there. And I get it, because it's a long, drawn-out race. It's so much back and forth with the start and stop. And I just think he was frustrated, right? You know your medium tire is not going to last. Because that's why after he gave the place back, he fell off because the rears were toast. So I think it was just frustration overall. Perez is out. So I think it was just some frustration. I'm interested to see, because I thought at the end Lewis started driving upset, which is when he's mad and focused, different type of animal. So I'm excited to see this last race. Bottas, I think, is going to play a good role in this last race, because he came back and got third.
Yes.
And that was good for Mercedes. So if you're a Red Bull fan and Mercedes fan, you guys should be excited for this last race. I think it's going to be a good one. It's going to be interesting. I think there's a lot that needs to be looked at. He got a 5-second penalty. I mean, I see people are saying it's not fair. Well,
and there's still an investigation that's happening now after the race, because there was something that they were going to look at after the race.
Right.
That is still
if you look at the root, you can be. Here's what I always say, guys. I'm going to be honest. This is just me being honest. Whether it's my team or not my team, you got to look at the root cause. Take your emotion out of the way and start using some logic, right? So the root cause of the problem, what started all of this? Was it your driving, right? You only got to give places back when you're driving when you gain an unfair advantage by not driving up to standard, right? Yeah. So there's only but so much gripe Red Bull or Max can have, because at the same time the store's going to say, what were you doing to even get yourself in this position? Why did you have to give the places back in the first place? What happened? Some people are going to say Lewis pushed him wide. According to Crofty, and they were watching the race as well, they were like, dude needs to look at his standards, his driving standard. Well, I say that's called heat of the moment driving mixed with some frustration. Fair enough, right? They both finished the race, which was a positive for both Red Bull and Mercedes, because what I do believe is neither one of the sides wanted to see both these guys crash out. I don't want to see them crash out and the championship be decided like Alan Prost and Senna.
Yeah.
That pissed me off. I mean, nobody wants to see that. But I do say the good thing was, through all of it, both guys finished, which I want to see both guys race it out and finish next race.
Yeah.
So all in all, good weekend, I would say, for both teams. I mean, it's dead even. Not ideal for Red Bull, but they still salvaged second place. Because what I thought starting, it was going to be Bottas 1 and 2. So we'll see. To my McLaren fans, guys. Oh, and one more thing before I forget. My second team is Williams. I want to give a rest in peace to Frank Williams.
Yes.
Sir Frank Williams. Guys, that's tough. I mean, always been my second team Williams. I'm one of those guys, I've watched for years. So Mercedes and Red Bull came after I already started watching. They're cool. Just not my favorite teams. But Williams has always been my second. Right up there. I mean, close with McLaren. McLaren's my overall favorite, but Williams has always been up there. And I like Frank because he started from nothing.
Yeah.
You guys should watch the movie. It was on Netflix. Frank Williams. Just watch how he started. He came from nothing. So, blue collar grinding type guy. You know, and I commend him. So his legacy cement. So again, rest in peace to Frank Williams. The Williams team has made a great turnaround this season. So I want to give them a shout out, you know. So again, any Williams fans out there, I'm sorry for the loss. I'm with you. You guys have had a solid season so far. Great season compared to last year. So I'm happy Frank got to see Williams turn around in that aspect this season so far. So Claire and her brothers, you know, I'm sorry for the loss. So yeah, I wanted to, before we ended, I wanted to get that out there too. Yeah. So any final thoughts, Babyface?
None.
Excited for the last race?
I'm ready for the last race.
Guys, she looks like she means business. I don't think she's fans of Yash, Christian, or Max at this point, or any Red Bull guys. I never thought I'd see this from Babyface, so this is interesting. Ferrari, I'm not happy with you guys. I don't know what you're up to, but some investigation needs to be done because I'm salty. I'll admit it. I'm salty. As a McLaren fan, I'm salty about it. But we'll see. And guys, thanks for watching again. This is Formula for Speed. We'll see you next time.
Bye.